as well.
And yep. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting edition of Couchbase live streaming to you all over the world, wherever you're coming from, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter/X, wherever platform you're coming to us from. We are excited to have you. You are seeing two regular faces plus a very special guest, which we are delighted to have with us. First of all, just a quick intro. I'm Ben. I work on the DevRel team at Couchbase, and today, as part of our regular lineup, we have who are you? Part of the regular lineup. What's your name again with the French accent?
Bonjour, my name is Laurent Dauguin, and that's my extremely obvious French accent for you. And I'm the lead of the DevRel team at Couchbase, and it's a pleasure to be here and to have all of you. Thank you so much for joining.
It is a pleasure to have you here. And we are joined by a very special guest today, and that would be, who are you? Can you tell us about who you are before I introduce you myself?
Yeah, my name's Alex Patterson. I work for Fusion Auth during the day and codingcat.dev at night.
Okay, we need to start, first of all, where all things start, which is with your handle. Can you tell us a little about the origin of your handle?
Oh my gosh. So my handle used to be like really simple. It was like my acronym for my name, AJOHN, and I had been running Coding Cat, which is course-based tutorials, and we do a weekly podcast about all things web. And at some point I was like, I have too many like disparate handles all over the place, and so I got it all down to CoderCatDev is my handle and CodingCatDev is the company's handle. And so those things are everywhere now.
I love it. Do you happen to also like cats?
We do have a black cat, our second black cat in a row. So my wife has a black cat tattoo now. I mean, I think I'm all in on cats, but if you really want to know the truth, I was trying to come up with a Basset Hound logo for a company probably about 7 years ago now. And my wife looked at me and she's like, "We only have cats. Why would you do this?" And I'm like, "Fine, okay." So,
but are you personally an equal opportunity dog and cat lover, or just you focus more on the cat?
Totally equal, but if there was some sort of fire, I might pick up the Basset Hound first.
Laurent, do you like cats or dogs? Well, we've never actually spoken about this in all of our time together.
Yeah, so I do like cats. I like every animal, but I'm more of a cat person. I do care about my personal freedom, which is incompatible with having a dog. Because there's too much work. You need to take the dog out all the time. Like I'm more of a cat myself. I like to do my own things on my own rhythm. So I'm more compatible with cats. That being said, I'm always on the road. I work in DevRel, so no cats, no dogs for me.
I think all three of us can experience and relate to that idea of being on the road.
This is exactly why we have a cat.
Because of the independence.
We're always gone. So we have a cat sitter that shows up when we're gone.
I have to tell you, I'm allergic to dander, very, very strong allergic to dander. So we don't have any pets. I lean more towards the dog personally than the cat, but I appreciate the cat. We have a lot of actually stray cats where we live, tons of city cats that just wander around. But there's a thing I have now, and it's not a good habit, which is every time I see a dog owner, I also look to see if they have a poop bag with them when they're taking a walk, because there is a proliferation of I don't know how a polite way to say this in the live streams of unwanted deposits on our sidewalks, and I feel like I need to call out the person if I don't see a poop bag. And my wife thinks I'm obnoxious for doing it, but I don't know what else to do.
At the time, there was a time where it was a very Paris kind of thing, to a point where they actually hired the motocross, which was people on motorbikes with a vacuum cleaner for dark deposits, basically.
Oh my gosh.
And so they were just roaming around Paris, just trying to make the streets safe, I guess.
I actually have a product idea for this. I can't tell it on live stream, but this is like my third career, which is to productize and disrupt the poop phenomenon of dogs on sidewalks. But that's for another conversation. Before we get into Hacktoberfest, I do want to say what we always say at the beginning of every stream, which is, so all of you are joining us live on whatever platform you are on, please feel free to be part of this banter, be part of this conversation. As we get into the more technical aspects of it, we welcome you to join in with comments and questions. This is not just the three of us bantering. This is all of you amongst the whole interwebs. And along those spirit, first of all, hello to our longtime follower and often not only a lurker but joiner, Matt Groves. Hello to you. And hello to Arindam. Thank you for joining us as well. It is a pleasure to have you. And, you know, Matt is showing that he has some French there, Laurent, for you. So,
Yes, he said sacre bleu.
Which is sacred blue?
Blue, which means holy something, I believe.
Oh, I thought it meant the color. That's how bad I am with French. I apologize.
Well, it is a color, but you get that.
And and so please, if you are live with us, you are welcome to join the conversation. And if you're watching this from the recorded streams later on YouTube or elsewhere, then join us live at a future stream and be part of the chat. So today is our week 2 of celebrating Hacktoberfest. We spent last week talking a bit about what is Hacktoberfest. We interviewed a fantastic gentleman from a nonprofit organization that helps students get involved in open source as part of their journey to careers in tech, essentially. And interestingly, as part of his own journey, it was his journey as well. That's how he got involved. And I believe the organization is called Code Day Labs. It actually is called Code Day Labs. Good memory for a 40-plus-year-old. Yes, Code Day Labs. That was a fantastic conversation. And near the end of last week, we highlighted the fact that we would talk more about the ways one could get involved with open source with Couchbase. And I thought, what a great way to do that to bring on Alex, CoderCat Dev, who offered a pull request on a project which is a new project for us. I'm looking over here because I'm gonna load share the screen. So I'm just going to do that. I even put a share screen thing on my stream deck. Let's see if that works. It does. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so that's a very large screen. Apologies. There we go. So Couchbase starter kits are kind of a fundamental idea, very useful, and actually a really good starting place, I think, and yes, macros, free ibuprofen would be very helpful for 40-plus-year-olds. Is a very good starting place for anyone interested in trying to build with Couchbase.
Ben, I'll cut you. You know what's more than 40 as well?
Tell me.
Your screen. It's more than 14 inch, and it looks very weird.
How's that?
I mean, you get the ratio is completely we're looking at a big rectangle. So if you could,
the ratio is weird. I understand that
a small part of your screen, that'd be better.
How do I do that? I don't know how to do that.
I have no idea.
You just have to drag your window, so either make it smaller or longer.
Are you sharing the window or are you sharing the screen?
I'm sharing the browser tab.
Yeah, just change the whole browser itself.
The browser itself.
So if you stretch it longer.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, and I think you have a mask on too. That's tricky.
Oh yeah, do you have a mask? That'd be interesting. I don't think so. Are you sharing directly or?
I'm sharing directly.
Oh,
well, now that's very small for me, but that's probably better for you.
It is slightly better, but it's still in a letterbox ratio.
It's letterbox. I don't know how to get out of letterbox. I know what you're.
You're doing it.
I think that's good.
I'm doing it, friends. This is live. We're doing this live. You don't understand how small this is now for me to look at. This is tiny. but it looks reasonable from I'm looking on the share screen.
It looks
reasonable.
great.
This is great.
It is so tiny. Okay. Awesome. Now I need to get a magnifying glass. So let's get back to, now that we've adjusted my monitor, we need to get back to the real topic here. And I see we have a whole conversation happening in the chat about whether we should be using Aleve, aspirin, ibuprofen. I recommend all of them. And then I do not do as I do. Please, no one please sue me. Just take them all. Just enjoy and just live a happy, pain-free life.
Take the appropriate
But
amount,
don't
though.
do as I do. What?
Just take the appropriate amount, though.
Take the appropriate amount, yes. And please speak to a medical professional. Do not listen to a DevRel guy about like what you should do for pain medicine. That's not a good idea. Okay, so you want to start with a new SaaS. You want to build something with it, or you want to build something with a new framework, a language, a library, a new server utility, anything, and you want to learn how to do it. There's a lot of ways you can enter into that, right? You can start by following a Hello World kind of tutorial. You can start by going through a more extensive tutorial. You can watch coding videos. You can read a quick start guide. You can just start building and get messy. And in that last category of building and get messy, there's also a couple of variants one can do. One can just like open a blank code editor with no files in it, nothing, and just start building and see what happens. Or you can have a little bit of scaffolding. Just enough scaffolding in the language and framework of your choice that lets you get started. I don't know. I was thinking about the ways in which I approach new things. And I tend to go from actually that last category of just get dirty with it. Like just open it up and make mistakes and fall over my face and see what happens. And I only go to the tutorials like kind of, and I write these tutorials, but I only go to them like as a last resort. How about you, Alex? What do you typically do when you're starting with something new?
Yeah, I guess it depends on which area like I want to dive into. So for Couchbase, for instance, I had no clue what I mean, I clue. It's kind of in the name and the description, but the only thing I could relate it to for myself, I'm a Firebase GD as well. And I'm like, this seems like Firestore to me. That's cool. And then I'm like, in my head, I'm going, why wouldn't they have Node.js first? I mean, that's the language to put first, right? And so after kind of reading the docs and understanding, it's a database and what we can do with it, and here's the list of kind of stuff to go in, I just immediately started breaking things, right? So I just want to throw some code at it and then come back to the structure of Hacktoberfest and work on the actual issue. So that's usually how I attack things. And usually when I hit a hurdle, then I dive into the docs a little bit further.
I wonder if this is a DevRel phenomenon. We only go to the docs as a last resort, even though we write the docs. Laurent, how about you?
I'm guilty as well. I start by playing. And I remember when I was very young, I had the same, my teacher asked me the same question about video games. Are you reading the manual or are you doing something else? And I was already doing something else. I was like, this probably worked like this old game I was playing. So I'm just going to assume it's the same thing. And the unfortunate part is that I was very into strategy game. And so it's not FPS. You kind of want to read the manual first. So I had some problems most of the time. But I like playing around. I start by a Git clone. I start by looking at the code. I do a lot of open source, so I usually start by looking at the code as well. And I am completely lost if when I start a project, I don't have access to my source dependencies because I've been working like this for so long now that I want my sources. I don't know how people did it before.
And you're not an Node.js guy by default.
I'm a Java guy mostly. I started working at a Java software vendor that was open source. So obviously I had all my code and all the dependencies that I could look into, like JBus and Seam and all those old EE enterprisey things.
If I'm going to open the code, the first place I tend to go is actually the testing suite to try and figure out what the thing does.
That's a good thing to do.
And then sometimes there's no testing suite, and then that's sad. But
and then you cry, and yeah.
And then I cried, and
Yeah.
I realized I also don't write a lot of testing suites when I put out things, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm also guilty of the exact same thing. Okay, so it seems like we're all kind of in the similar category, which is we try and break things, and we try and build and break things. So the intention behind these starter kits, which, as I mentioned, is a new resource, which is why, Alex, we didn't have a Node.js version yet of these, because they're new resources, and we both started with the default languages that we kind of gravitate to initially, which is for Laurent, it's Java, and for me, my default tends to be Ruby. And so that's why there was a Ruby on Rails starter kit before there was a Node.js starter kit, and it's new. It's not 15 years old. You're like, what is going on here? And so the idea was, let's create just the most bare bones scaffolded project in a language and framework of in a specific language and framework, discrete language and framework, so that people can get going and break things, but have a little bit of help in starting. Like, here's how to instantiate a Couchbase client in your code. Here's how to bring in the configuration details. And here's one test file, basically, that like just shows that it works. And then that's like enough for you now to build whatever is in your dreams. The sky is the limit for what you could build. And this is not unique to Couchbase. There's other, I think, organizations and open source projects and like that offer similar kind of like starter repos, starter examples, and they're just very useful. So that was the idea. And so we have essentially 3 of them built by us. We have the Java one, the Ruby one, and a Python one. And then we're like, you know what? This is like a nice Hacktoberfest project too, because they're pretty constrained. They're not like, it's not a huge project. It's not, you're not asking to build the world. It's basically build a small starter project in the thing you know already, which is your language and framework. And the one thing that you may not know is how to instantiate Couchbase in it. So it's a little bit of learning in it, which seems like it was your journey. That was exactly you, if I'm not mistaken.
Totally. Yeah, and
So
the interesting piece for me is like when you talk about these things, like when the SDKs are simple enough where you're like, I understand the concepts, like I understand using a database and things like that. And when the SDK is like, here, load these 2 strings and then you're connected, like that makes your job quite a bit easier, right?
That's true. It's a good test of the intuitiveness of an SDK as well. Yeah. Which I'm sure all of us can have a lot of conversation about, what's the point of an SDK?
So I will say, if we want to talk directly about kind of the starter kits and the requests, I can go on kind of my experience if you want.
I would love to. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to load just so people can see on our screen here exactly what we're talking about. So if we go to the contributing guide, which is like kind of the ground zero for all of this of wanting to contribute, where everything is, and then we have a bunch of these open issues. And these issues are sort of where there's the launching point for somebody to get going in building one of the starter kits. And of course, we're honing in today on the Node.js starter kit. So this is the language in the Node.js starter kit is the same in every issue, except for, the details of the language itself, minor details. So let's talk about this. When you looked at this issue, what were...
Ooh, I don't know if you're breaking up or if I'm breaking up. Hopefully
I've lost Ben, so I'm assuming.
Okay. So I guess to kind of break down...
Am I back?
Yes.
Yes, you're back.
To break down the contributing guide a little bit, the challenge for me, even reading the contributing guide and everything like that, I still, for whatever reason, I wanted to put a pull request in against the contributing guide for Node.js, because I'm like, well, they're going to own this at the end of the day. I'm not going to own it, right? And so that was a bit tricky to get my head wrapped around. And then I realized, we want a completely new repo. So at some point, maybe you guys will take this over or whatever. But for now, I created one fresh from, CoderCat Dev on GitHub, and then it's just Couchbase Node Starter. And so beginning that whole journey of like, okay, well, let's just run a npm init, let's get that package rolling, that whole thing. Past that, then I realized, okay, all of the other files that are necessary are in the Couchbase or the contributing guide, right? And so I could pull those out into my repo and then push that up. So it was a little bit of a chicken and egg-ish, maybe not, maybe more. The chicken was there and I just wasn't expecting it type of thing. So there is kind of two flavors. Like if you read down through it, there's a community section on the actual like front of the contributing guide. And that's where the expectation, I think, is to link out to the community's like starters. So that was my first kind of experience into it.
I think that's a fantastic point and actually raises a really good kind of meta question of like, how do you encourage? There's like different types of open source contributions to different GitHub organizations. Some of them is contributing to existing repositories. And it's like, here's an issue in an existing repo, and we want you, and we're inviting you to join in and fix a bug, add a feature, add docs, yada, yada. But then there's the kind of contribution, which is we want you to contribute a new repo to an existing GitHub org. And then you run into all kinds of issues around permissions and user access and things like that. Yep. So this one falls into the second category, which is we want you to actually add a brand new repository, but we can't have you add a brand new repository because you're not a member of the GitHub org. So, and we don't know you, and you know, there's tens of thousands of open source contributors, and we can't just say everyone just use our space and like make a repo for all of your vacation pictures and whatever you want. So it's like, so how do we do that in a balanced way? And I think what you're highlighting is that tension. And so the path that we tried to do was, okay, create a repo in your own account, your own GitHub account, and then add a link to it in the README. And then I think the unspoken part, which maybe should be spoken, is that if it seems like stable and good, then we could change ownership of that repo to the org, and maybe then at some point invite you or whoever does it as a contributor to the org, again, in an official capacity. So it's like a couple steps of first proving intentionality, building the thing in your own account, and then if it seems sustainable and it seems like a really good, robust project, which in this case, these starter kits don't have to be that, they're not so extensive to be considered robust, they're pretty just minimal, but then bring that in to the org of this GitHub org, change the ownership, and then if the person's interested still, invite them to be a long-term contributor to that repo in that org. Like that last half, those last two bits were not explicitly written in the instructions. That was like the unspoken aspect of it. But now speaking about it, it may make sense to actually modify and make that explicit as part of the long-term intentionality. But it's interesting. How do you do that?
Yeah. So like at FusionAuth, we have hundreds of repos, and as a DevRel team member, like we have to actually keep these things going, right? Which is a huge challenge for us. Sometimes we actually get outside vendors to come in and update this because we just don't have the time between traveling to conferences and all of those things. But for like community side of things, a lot of our Hacktoberfest activities are around like upkeep of those repos. But if we were to start a new repo, excuse me, what we would actually do is stub out kind of like node Couchbase starter or whatever one that we want. And we'd put those default files in there and say, okay, pull request against this. If you have anything you need to read, go read the contributing guide. So it's kind of keeping you
like giving the skeleton folder already, the skeleton repo.
Exactly. Yep. And you can even create like a template in GitHub. So you can like say, use this template for this new repo type of thing. So there's a couple ways, but I also understand like maintenance is just crazy.
How do you contribute templates then? Because that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Yeah. So I would consider the template the contributing guide files, like the
right. So let's actually take a look at
the GitHub workflow, those sort of things.
They're in the samples folder, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, exactly. These files.
I would kind of put that as your template, and then once you PR to the new, you're able to get those. So
that makes sense.
I think that's a very good approach, and like part of Hacktoberfest is the iterative nature of this stuff, and like trying to figure out and get it right and invite participants while at the same time manage the flow, because we all know there's sometimes Hacktoberfest projects can receive little attention or no attention, and sometimes they can receive an overabundance of attention, and it's kind of variable, and it's like, how do you make sure that you manage for all those things? Although I actually got on that topic tangentially. Somebody raised somewhere else, and I've been thinking about it now as well. Like, now that there's no Hacktoberfest T-shirts, I wonder how that's also changing the
They
dynamics.
did trees for a minute, didn't they? Are they still doing anything like that? I didn't actually read through the
digital badges, I think, at this point.
Oh, Holopin, that's right.
Right. Like NFTs that are not NFTs.
That's totally right. I have a podcast with the Holopin inventor. I can't remember names for the life of me.
That's really cool.
Here we go. Lena.
What's their name? Lena?
Elena.
So I think that's like a larger question. So it seems like a little bit of where some potential stumbling block in contributing was around, okay, how do I actually, like, what's my first step? What's my literal first step? I get that there's these sample files. I get like the intention of the project, but like, how do I concretely begin? Do I create my own repo? That seems to be the first potential stumbling block.
Yeah, I would say like I've done it enough where I finally was like, oh, I clued into it after a while. But I think for a lot of people, what they're looking for is that PR that gets you the pins when you get your PR accepted, right? So in this case, the acceptance for the PR, I think my PR might be out there, is putting the link to my repo in. Once you accept that, that's kind of the goal at the end of it.
Right. So that's what it looks like. So if you would go to the open pull request, which is right here by this random guy named Coder CatDev, I've heard of him a couple of times. We see that the actual pull request, well, it's got a few checklist items, but they're all about the link that you're putting into the README. They're all about the repository that you're linking to. Does the repository you're linking to have a basic setup for the framework? Does it have the ability to connect to Couchbase, either the DBAS or the Couchbase server? Does it have
I might have cheated on my testing, by the way, because I still don't think it worked yet.
Yeah, so we're going to get to the testing in a minute, by the way. And it happens to be Laurent is a world-renowned Couchbase CI/CD tester. Perfect. So in the league of Couchbase testers.
Yeah.
I noticed that. But we're going to get there in a second. And then we're also making sure that we have the one-click deployment from either GitHub Codespaces and Gitpod, which I love. I've been doing that for years in all my tutorial repos, like opening GitHub Codespaces, and just, it's the nightmare of giving a tutorial, whether online or in person, a workshop, and you have to wait 15, 20 minutes for the thing to get ready on the local environment on their computer. When I used to do a lot of Rust workshops and people had to compile the Rust project locally first. Oh my God, Alex. I was okay. So everyone go, let's do a marathon and get a cup of coffee after and take a shower, and we'll come back and now we can start. Like
yeah, I was going to say 15 minutes is a very positive way of saying this, because usually before compiling you need to install the whole thing, and that's
right. The Rust tool chain first and then compile.
Yeah.
Okay, make sure documentation, yada yada. So if you look at the actual contribution, what we see is well, this is the issue. Sorry, here. Why is it loading? Load. There we go. Here we go. So you've added to the README. Like, that's the thing. You've added to the README this thing here. And what is this thing here? This is your project. Let's load that project. Hopefully this works. It does. Amazing. Come on. I wouldn't be surprised if my kids are also Twitch streaming on their own right now. And that's probably why. Hello.
I usually hit that point at 5 p.m. my time. So.
And that's 5 p.m. my time. There we go. Look at that. Okay, so this is your repository. And anyone is welcome to contribute. If you didn't notice, we'll go back at the end. We have other open issues in. Do you remember the languages and frameworks, Laurent, on the top of your head?
No, but
PHP
I
was
can
one of them.
take a look. Probably because we don't want to do it because it's not our thing. Or is that
Because
the
we
only
love
reason?
PHP so much.
Exactly. Let me see. Couchbase starter kits.
Yeah, there's React Native, Flutter, Swift, C#, Kotlin, Scala,
Scala.
Go,
Yeah.
PHP.
And Node.js. It's basically most of these SDKs that we support that we have. And like Matt Grove is who is on the stream is probably wondering where is the .NET one. And actually, oh, there it is. Sorry, it says C# instead of .NET. I'm such a Java person. There it is. So yeah, it's the most used
I think our
SDKs that
streams
we
are so
have.
fun. The impromptu nature of our streams, I think it just evokes so much joy. Yes,
It's all about transparency.
it is all about transparency. Okay, so we take a look at this. We see the starter kit. I ran the starter kit locally. I offered actually a couple. Oh, did you merge my pull request already?
3
I
minutes
did.
ago.
Sorry, I saw it was out there while we were recording. So
You did. So look at this is the back and forth beauty of Hacktoberfest. We contribute to each other in this like beautiful way.
I
So essentially,
I probably should have put like an issue with Hacktoberfest and then had you.
That's my sound effect. I just put it on my stream deck today too. Look how fancy I am. Okay. So yes, you're totally right. That would have been more fancy and probably gotten me the credit for it as well. But in any case, this project, if you look at it, just to give you a sense of what we're asking for, which is not a ton. So essentially there's one file that of substance that like, is the actual code base, which is index.js. And if you follow along with some JavaScript, you're instantiating the Couchbase client here. You are defining your variables here, taken from your environment variables from your .env file. You are creating a connection to your Couchbase cluster here. And then you're grabbing your Couchbase bucket, you're grabbing your collection, you're scoping yourself, you're creating a little data item, which is very cute. And then you're upserting the data item into the collection, and then you're getting the result. And then you're also doing one last thing, which is to query for a result from the data set, from the sample data set. So when you open up a Couchbase bucket, you can do a lot of things with it. Bucket is basically in a NoSQL database context, like your table. And one of the things you can do with it is import a lot of sample data. And we have different configured sample data options. One of them is called a travel sample, which is what you've done here. And you're importing the travel sample. You're using the data from that imported travel sample to basically just get an airline where the parameters for airline equals, or the name from the parameter from, it's like name from airline where the country for the airline is United States. And then you just return that, and then you run the function. That, my friends, if you're listening, all of you on all the platforms, and you're say, hey, I can do a React Native starter kit. I love React Native. I'm a React Native dev. I'm a React Native dev before mobile phones existed. I was doing React Native on Atari PCs. If that's you and you say to yourself, yes, I want to do this, that's what we're asking for. It is that, not much more than that. And Alex has done a beautiful job of showing us that. And what I love about these things is badges, which gets us to testing. So we have a couple of badges here. We have the license badge, a code of conduct, very important for all open source repositories, in my opinion. And then, of course, the one-click deploy to GitHub Codespaces and KitPod. But then we have this badge here of test the Couchbase connection, and it's failing. It is so sad. Let's see if we can talk about this live on stream.
What are we gonna do?
What are we gonna do?
Yeah, I didn't write any of that. That was straight from the SDK. So full disclosure,
It's not you, it's me. That's all right.
I did throw it into ChatGPT though and said, "Hey, make a connection," and it was spot on. So it was.
Well,
kinda
that's
nice.
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
All
So
right, so
look,
let's
your
see.
test is taking on GitHub Actions 10 minutes and 3 seconds to run, which also feels like a long time.
Yeah. That's kind of why I think I cheated, because I was like, "Oh, it looks like it's good," and I didn't realize it hadn't finished yet.
It's probably
It's-
good.
It's probably good. It takes, it's 1 second to set up the Rust toolchain, which is incredibly fast. 9 minutes 54 seconds to run this. Who is this Laurent guy? Laurent
Ooh, that thing's
set
brutal.
up. Yeah.
I'm
Wow.
unaware. We don't know. Completely
And
unaware.
then this is our issue here, Laurent. So, do you want to share a screen and walk through this, or should I share a screen and you drive?
I can drive because I'm looking on my other computer. So
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing screen, and you can share from your widescreen monitor. We can make fun of you also.
no,
Okay.
I can't. It's on my literally other computer. That's the thing. So I can.
Oh,
I
that's
can.
such a shame. I was so looking forward to that.
I'm just looking at your workflow, which you can't see because I'm on my computer, which doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna.
And I think there is, and Alex, you're comfortable with like reviewing this test file together and getting it working
Oh yeah,
on stream. Okay.
I don't
know
mind
that
looking like a dummy.
You don't mind doing this. Okay, good. I should have asked you that before, but let's ask you all while we're live. It's always better to do that.
Yeah, the pressure is all there then.
The pressure is all there. And look at that. What a beautiful language.
So there we go. I'm assuming you all see my screen.
Yep.
Yes.
Probably.
Your normal size screen.
Like exactly. There we go. Let's talk about the what's going on in that GitHub action. All right. Is this yours? Oh yeah, it's yours. Is this? What is this? This is weird. It says spring.
It does say spring.
I'm assuming that's part of the reason why something's failing. Anyway, there's a bunch of things that we will have to ask you, which is, do you have those variables set up in your?
So let me
in your repo at the repo level.
Yeah, let me go
Right.
to the repo. So I have some of those set as environment variables and other ones set as what, secrets or something? Is that right?
Right. Vars are things that can get printed from a GitHub Actions
Yes.
run. And
Secrets will be
secrets
replaced.
do not. Right.
Right.
That's essentially the difference. I mean, I'm sure there's other differences as well, but that's the one that feels most.
So while you're looking, I will explain that file. So the first thing you can see is that we are changing the default shell, and the default shell is changed to CBSH, which is the short for Couchbase shell. And Couchbase shell is our CLI tool to manage Couchbase. Right. So every time you will pipe something to a shell, it's gonna go in Couchbase shell. It's gonna run whatever you're writing. Couchbase shell is great because you can manage your cluster, you can manage your Capella organization. Couchbase Capella is our managed cloud. You can insert documents, you can read documents, you can index documents, you can run vector search, you can even ask large language model stuff if you wanted to. The second block is a bunch of unknown variables that we'll be using in our test. So here you can see there's a default bucket, default scope, default collection, which is where we have an error right now. There's also remapping of three secrets. So this was copy pasted from the Spring starter kit probably, because it says Spring Couchbase connection string, Spring Couchbase username, and Spring Couchbase password. Those three variables are the default with Spring Boot. Spring Boot, it's a Java framework. It abstracts a whole lot of things from you. It's convention over configuration. And part of that convention is if you have an environment variable that's called Spring _Couchbase _connection _string, it's going to use that to connect to Couchbase. So it's probably not useful here. But let's continue. Then we are running a couple steps. So this was the config part. This is where our GitHub action, which is a workflow, is actually running. So we're running this on Ubuntu 22.4. We are checking out the current repository. So that's the Couchbase Node Starter project. These two steps are installing Couchbase Shell. Couchbase Shell is written in Rust, and as such, you need to set up the Rust toolchain. And once you have the Rust toolchain, here we are downloading and installing the latest version of Couchbase Shell. We are basically building it from source, and we are passing it a Couchbase Shell config, which might be also the important part. What is a Couchbase Shell config? How do you get it? It's a secret. The whole config is a secret because, as Ben mentioned, we don't want that to be printed on the logs because there are some passwords in there. So it's a multi-line config. Once you have Couchbase Shell installed and configured because of that, then it can go into the following steps. It can load whatever is in that script. And this is what is in that script. It's basically printing the current Couchbase environment, looking if the bucket that was giving us an argument exists. And if it doesn't, it will create it. If it exists, it will say it already exists. And it does the same for the scopes and the collection. So it's doing all. So we are sourcing it. Basically, it's become an available function in our Couchbase Shell environment, and then we can call it. And then it fails miserably. And then it tries to do a whole bunch of things, but let's not go there. All right. So you can see that it's trying to create default bucket, default scope, default collection. We probably have those. I'm assuming the problem is into CB Shell config that you don't have configured.
Yeah, so I have Couchbase connection string, Couchbase password, Couchbase username, Couchbase default bucket, default collection, default scope. I think you're right.
So things like the variable names for a couple of them need to get changed in the workflow, and then we need the CB Shell config.
Yes, exactly, because it's not about just those environment variables. Those environment variables will be used by whatever's running to configure.
Now, if we're getting the config, is there an easy way to get the config, Laurent? I'm asking in a way which I might already have the answer, but I want you to tell us.
I don't know.
If you're using Couchbase Capella, which is database as a service, is there a way to get that config from the UI?
You could log into Couchbase Capella.
I love asking questions like that. Leading questions are my favorite kind of questions.
And I'm gonna go into my personal organization because
of course you're gonna make sure not to show your details. So you're just gonna show.
I'm gonna show my personal stuff. It's fine. Look, it doesn't even exist. Let's say you want to have a free tier because hey, we have a free tier.
Do we have a free tier?
We do. So it may take a little bit of time to come back up.
I do have a cluster up. Should I grab something from there?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to share your screen and show us?
Sure.
All right. I will stop sharing.
I can stretch or whatever we need to on that screen as well. Ben, I think you might have to click display or whatever.
Yes, it is there.
Oh, so vertical screen. All right.
Yeah, I have a 4K, so there you go. Whatever size works for you.
Nice.
Well, you've taught me that magic of how to resize it, so now I'm taking that with me going forward.
So this is the one I stood up
Awesome.
to do some testing.
So if you click on the name, so that's Couchbase Node Starter.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, there's a Connect tab in there, and so the Connect tab will show you a variety of ways to connect to different things.
Including after the SDKs, there's one called Couchbase Shell.
Absolutely,
on the left-hand nav bar.
Be activated at some point, but it's probably looking at the turned off. Yeah. So you need to turn it back on, which is fine. So what happens when you start a free tier is that if you don't use your free tier, for 72 hours. I think it's 72 hours, something like that. We'll turn it off because these things they cost money. And so if everybody has a cluster running that's not used, then we'll turn them off.
I should
And then
probably ping this once a day with a GitHub action then.
you could, I don't know exactly what it would do, but
That sounds like the Heroku method. Remember back years ago? Like, make sure to ping your Heroku instance once a day at least.
Now it's probably going through the reverse proxy.
Still refresh. Maybe I'll be back.
Right,
So
80%.
So this might be a good opportunity for people like myself. So you guys aren't necessarily completely SaaS service hosting this. You've actually deployed something Kubernetes onto AWS, something like that.
That's a good question. I don't know exactly what we're doing. I know we are not using Kubernetes anymore for our own managed version. Look, Kubernetes is a great technology if you're building your own platform. It's basically a generic platform to build your own specific platform. But we don't really need that. We only need to manage Couchbase. So in many sense, it's not necessarily useful for us. These were very useful for our customers that build their own platform on-prem or managed by some other Kubernetes company. And so we do have it's called the Couchbase Autonomous Operator. It's a Kubernetes operator that you can use to manage Couchbase clusters in an immutable configuration way, which is pretty cool.
Are you able to load like Docker locally to run Couchbase?
Oh, Docker and Couchbase absolutely works.
Nice.
Yep. Very
this is actually what's going on with the Gitpod image. If you click on Gitpod, it's gonna download a pre-made image.
You can have you see the Gitpod YAML file to see what's happening there. The .gitpod.yml.
Yeah, so it's just gonna pull from some person that we also don't know who that person could ever be.
I feel like there's like job safety happening here. I don't know.
Just a bit.
Just a bit. Yeah, no, I need to handle that to end that.
I see another fix on this we should also put up here, by the way. The image should be pointing to the Node image, not the Ruby image.
Oh, that's true. So there's a mix of Ruby and Java.
The best mix, by the way. It's a lovely stew. When you mix Ruby and Java together, you get Node. No one knew that before. Now you know. Java and
who knew?
Make Node.js.
I didn't realize this is. I guess I assumed like there's a bunch of different services within this. That's interesting.
So when you load Gitpod, there's different images for different workspaces that have different setup. It's mostly tooling, mostly languages, right? If you really want to look into different services, you can look into dev containers. We have different features. Dev container has a feature.
Here we are, by the way.
They have a feature, and the feature allow you to declare feature to add a specific part of your image, to configure a specific part of your image. So we have a Couchbase feature, a Couchbase shell feature, and a Couchbase sync gateway feature, which is our kind of Firebase equivalent. So anyway, back on the turn on Couchbase cluster, you were on the Connect tab, and we could see it a minute ago, but it disappeared. I'm not sure why.
Let me refresh, see what happens.
Basically, the Connect tab is supposed to give you every ways to connect to Couchbase based on our SDK, our Couchbase shell. You also get some import and export tool.
Why are we turning off the nodes? Do we turn off the nodes again?
I don't think so.
It says turning off the nodes.
That's weird.
Is that an example of eventual consistency, which for in a SQL database would be sort of ironic?
A bit, just a bit. But essentially what happens is when you go to Couchbase shell, that link, you get a copy and pastable you get a config file that you can copy and paste and use. The only thing that you need to actually add to that config file is your password itself. It's obfuscated inside what you're presented with there, but everything else is exactly what you would need for the CB shell config. I do not know why it's now turning off your node. maybe go back to your operational clusters
Okay.
and
That is
then
extremely annoying.
turn it on again.
Okay. Just here.
Turn on.
Have you tried to turn it off and on again?
Have you tried?
It's between
you hit it?
the keyboard
Did you
and
hit
the chair.
You hit it. That's weird. That is very odd. But we did see it a second ago. We're not making it up. It was there. Yes. And then if you go back to the gitpod.yaml, you also see a very similar config file for the GitHub code spaces, which basically does exactly the same thing for the code spaces in the repo.
Yeah, and I can show you here is this is the dev. I just call it dev environment, which I believe will work. Because there's no restrictions.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
That probably worked.
So we'll just have to add that one additional.
And change the name of the what we're signing it in the YAML file.
I did update that, I think.
You update. You're so fast, Alex.
I try. I mean, keeping up with you guys.
You know, you're speedy like a cat.
Let's
You're
see.
just like,
Yeah, I think we just have Couchbase. I removed the rest.
remove the framework specific.
I do appreciate the cat term. That was nice.
I try to bring it in once in a while.
So let's see. Did this finish? Maybe.
Hopefully,
Maybe
won't then go back.
Maybe AWS went down. Who knows?
When all is in doubt, blame AWS.
I think
I'm
West
assuming-
went down last week. So.
Oh, I was going to say you're probably the US East one like everybody else, but that's maybe not.
Oh, this one might be actually. Yep.
US East. Yeah.
Oh no, I did Ohio, so that's I think 2, right? It's a little closer to Michigan.
Everything is close to Michigan.
Everything and nothing, just Canada, right?
Isn't a part of Michigan north of Canada?
I
Part of
guess
Detroit?
technically, because like the
way it's shaped, right?
Yeah.
Like part of...
Yeah, that's fair. I always think of it as north, but it is east of us as well.
That's also true, right? Yeah, that's true. These little geographical nerd details that only the select few of us can really appreciate.
I'm just appreciating that people outside the U.S. know where Michigan is, so that's good.
It's got a lot of lakes.
Yeah, it does. Great lakes. They are great.
Are they really great? Have you made
They're-
them great again? Sorry, that was so
they're-
bad. Yeah.
See, you guys know more politics than I know. That's crazy. One more month. Maybe we can stop all this.
Oh yeah, wow.
I'm so sick
Yeah,
of
I'm in
it.
the U.S. on election day. I'm going to be in New York City for election day.
For election day?
for
Oh, yeah,
family
that's
occasion.
when you. Yeah, and I'll be there a week after.
Nice.
Interesting time.
I wish I could
Definitely.
offer more to show the live stream here, but that's
You know,
not-
that's the
I mean-
problem with, that's the problem and the beauty and the fact that it's a live stream. It's live.
I could show you a local connection or something. I don't know.
Well, it should be. It was at 90% a second
Hey,
ago. But,
check mark.
so let's
Right,
go
so
back to
SDK,
the
Couchbase shell.
Okay, now let's talk about this
you
before we
can-
lose it again. So you see a set of instructions, right? First of all, you could pick your credentials from the drop-down list. So, from that cluster credentials drop-down, and then you create a folder called dots. It gives you the instructions, right?
Okay.
Create a folder called .cbsh. But in this case, all we need is to assign this to this file, the contents of this file. We need to assign it to a GitHub secrets in our repo.
Okay. So
basically.
we need to assign that over here to a secret called
cb shell_config, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that.
let me
And you may want to
confirm.
stop sharing when you put in your password, because that's the part that's obfuscated.
CB shell.
Right.
Yep, that's
CB shell_config. Absolutely.
Or as they say in French, obfuscate all.
Obfuscate.
I'm curious. I'm not good with the actions because I usually use Firebase stuff. Are vars equal to something like this secret that we have now?
No, that's the thing. If you have a vars, it's just going to be printed in the log and not obfuscated.
Yes,
If it's a
okay.
secret, it will be obfuscated. Now, you just pasted the whole config of CB shell as a secret, so it might be hard to obfuscate. But the good thing is the way we install Couchbase shell, we pass your config and we make sure that just the secrets are being selected as being obfuscated. So it's going to be much
Exactly.
simpler and easier to be.
So I
So
think
you may want to stop sharing for a minute, Alex, as you put in your password
sure
in the place where password is.
I will
If you still
pull
have your
that.
Couchbase password.
I
Because you have some.
I think I saved in 1Password. I believe.
Good shout out to saving in things in password managers.
I do
Yeah.
work for an authentication company, so we
You
try
do
to be
indeed.
we try to be sensitive about these things.
It's important
Yeah, there,
Sometimes.
there it is. Perfect.
with good MFA as well.
Okay, so I just want to confirm too. I'm going to pull this back up here. So as I go down this list, so I do have default bucket, which is environment. Yep. Okay. And then default scope is an environment. Default collection is an environment. And
So all of
then-
that somewhat doesn't matter.
Oh, because of our new?
Because so all the environments are used by the app you want to run. It's not used by the CB shell config. So the thing that's failing right now is only because of the CB shell config. So those steps are probably going to work, and it's probably going to fail
Right.
after when you come to the Java things, and then you cannot execute Java because then you don't have Java code, which is normal.
Okay.
But Java and Ruby together make Node, so we're good.
So I think if I'm hearing you correctly, I can fire this action now that I've updated that.
Yes.
Okay.
And
You
it
can
should,
even rerun the action,
still
I think.
fail, but differently.
Okay, I'll rerun it then.
Now the problem is, hold on, it's going to
Oh.
try to rebuild the whole thing. So if you go back to your action,
Okay.
Or can you just rerun the failed step?
I don't think you can.
I think you
Can
rerun
you?
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because I think the way it's
I'm just gonna run it. By the time we get done
run it.
talking, it might finish.
Well, that's the thing. It probably won't because it's compiling the whole project, which is Couchbase shell. So it takes a bit of time. It's just installing the Rust toolchain. So
if you refresh, you'll see it pop up in this list.
yeah,
Because this is
just
like
be
HTML over
patience.
the wire to refresh. Yeah, there's CB shell, right? Yes, I see a Rust installation.
Our favorite package manager, Cargo.
The magic of Cargo.
Which coming from the Ruby space is saying something.
The Rust dependency management is actually fantastic.
It's been built by the people that build
Ruby development management, exactly, from Ruby Gems, exactly. I would say of the multiple languages out there, we as in our world, we work with a lot of languages. I would say Ruby and Rust are two of the best dependency management systems that I've probably ever worked with.
I still kind of like the PMPM, probably just because I'm used to it though.
Really?
Yeah.
I find
Run
you get lost sometimes in versioning,
Oh, really?
Yeah, at least I have. Maybe I just bad at it.
I think after the lock files were added, it really
helps
everything.
Right. But then you have conflicts, right? If some package depends on one version and another version, and it doesn't auto-resolve.
PMPM has kind of helped with that because if you have matching, it will have it at a specific level, and then if it needs another, it will install it. So not as much anymore.
It's improved.
It's improved.
Yeah, it's improved. I'm not going to say what my least favorite is because that's rude, and I don't want to insult any language community. But I do have a least favorite.
I am.
It's a language that I enjoy. It's from a syntax perspective, it's a good language. Just its version management is.
I have a rough idea of who you're talking about.
Yeah, we're not going to say that. We're going to be vague. We're going to vague book.
I still have struggles with Perl, but that's just because I didn't
Oh.
Perl. So
now that's safe to say, unless we're at FOSDEM. Then it's not safe to say.
Hey, do you guys have anyone going to Web Summit by chance?
Web Summit, is it in Portugal? Is it Lisbon?
It is.
Sadly, no.
One of
No.
the best cities for conferences in all
I
of Europe.
know. I was gonna say we're gonna do a little DevRel breakfast. You guys should come.
Oh, that sounds great.
I think
I
we're doing
was-
DevRel breakfast for reInvent. If you'll be at Las Vegas reInvent,
I'll be at reInvent. I'll be happy to join.
perfect.
Laurent will be there along with another of our colleague, right? Isn't Chevet coming as well?
Re인vent? I don't think so.
Ah,
When's he going to
Chevet.
Superfund?
We have been trying to connect for a podcast forever.
He is a good guest. He's a good host. He's a good guest. He's just good all
Yes.
around.
Is
I will not be-
is in Guytex today.
Yes. Gitex or Gitex?
I have no idea. Something.
I want to
master of
say,
event.
I think on the I'm in the wrong repo.
Why are you in the wrong repo?
I was just gonna say I think he gave a shout out on the issue when I
He did.
mentioned it.
That is right.
He was all over that. I was like, wow. Yeah,
Sounds
there you
like
go.
something you would do. Yeah.
Look at that Rust compilation.
So as a
Look at it go.
database company, kind of, you have more products around Couchbase. From a Firebase person, what's the comparisons there?
That is a great
Can I
question.
turn the question around and ask you when you said, because when you started the stream you said I assume it's a bit like Firebase, and what services are you using on Firebase? Because there are so many services. It's
Yeah.
not just storing things, right? It's more.
So my initial gut reaction, it said JSON database. And so I was like, oh, it's like the real-time database on Firestore. And then I read a little bit more and it said like collections. I'm like, oh, it's a little more like Firestore, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
still JSON. So yeah, Mongo came to mind. So I'm like, okay, cool. And then I started looking around a little more. I'm like, do they have authentication? Do they have storage? So that was kind of where my head went, if you will. And the whole Couchbase, what's Capella? The Capella thing threw me off. I had never heard that term.
Yeah, it's just the name of our managed offering. It's not a backend as a service like Firebase would be yet. It's more of it's still a database as a service. So you only get a JSON database that allow you to. Well, I mean, it's not just a JSON database. We call that a data platform. So it's time for a little history lesson. You get a merge of CouchDB and Membase. So you get a merge of something that stores JSON, that has a REST API, and that can be queried by querying index you've built using MapReduce function. So that was CouchDB at the time, which nobody wanted to do. And then you had Membase, which was a fantastic distributed key value in memory data store. And so we've merged the two, which gives you distributed key value JSON store on which you can do MapReduce to do queries. And because nobody wanted to do that, we added SQL. And then we had a whole bunch of different things like time series or full text search, vector search, analytics, user-defined function, all that stuff. So we're still very focused on the database side of things. But one of the things we really do well is, we come from a caching background, so it's all about latency. And there's one latency you cannot reduce. It's the size of the optic fiber between the user and the server, right?
Yep.
There's no. So the way to do this would be
You can never
maybe
change the speed of light, right? That's the whole thing.
right.
We're working on it, but there's
You
some rules of nature or something. I don't know.
And physics, yeah. So the only solution is to be closer to people, and when you start being closer to everyone, then you start having replication issues and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And active replication between databases is really hard, but that's something we've been working on for since the very beginning, and that's actually one of the reasons why we've been used so much in critical use cases, because we do active replication really, really well. And so that allowed us to be deployed close to people and with the in-memory layer to have a very, very, very low latency. So that's one of the things that we do really nice. And to push that even further, then we have Couchbase Lite, which is a local database that runs in your app on your phone that syncs automatically to the server database. So when you don't have network, you still have an app. It's not a local cache, it's an actual local database, JSON database, search, SQL, everything, which is nice. And it syncs automatically to something called Couchbase Sync Gateway if you're in on-prem, or if Couchbase Capella App Services if you're on the managed side of things. And so to finish the comparison with Firebase, right now we mostly have user management and a way to decide what's going to be synced based on those users and permission through app service. And hopefully we'll add more feature to app service to look more like a backend as a service like Firebase instead of a database as a service or data platform as a service like Couchbase.
Nice.
That was a really succinct way to say it, Laurent. Thank you. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
Cheers.
I'm going to do like a semi-shameless just because I wrote this article back in like 2023. And I'm kind of curious, like there's got to be some competitors on this list somewhere. And now I need to go back and update for like 2025 and have Couchbase included in here, right?
Yeah. Couchbase started in 2010. If you're looking for all the details, there's a website that I absolutely adore called dbdb.io. So it's like iMovie database, but for database. So it's database.io.
Not Deb.
dbdb.io.
Can't type.
What you load on a live stream, you never know.
Wow.
The database of databases. So yeah, that could be useful for if you want to revisit your post.
Yeah, and for me, like what I'm looking for is anything that FusionAuth can like then show people how to like use their API. So I want to take like Jots and like stick a user ID, a sub in there, and say, here's how you actually store that person in your database. Stop storing emails, like that side of things. So this is cool.
Nice.
Very cool.
All right. Checking our test here.
Rust is many things. Speed and compilation is not necessarily one of those things.
Country of origin. Interesting. I like this. You know, I'm going to put it in our random channel right now so I remember it.
It's a great resource. I love that website.
Alex, how long have you been at FusionAuth?
I've been there just over a year, so like 15-ish months, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who else is on your team?
You might know Dan Moore.
That's what I thought. You're right.
Dan basically created the DevRel in FusionAuth. Started working for him, but then the team almost immediately after I started expanded. They got 64 million. I'll call it in funding. It's not a seed round or anything, but so then we've basically doubled the team, and we'll probably double it again by next year. So it's a fun little ride. Yeah. So if you know any Java developers that are looking for a job, let me know.
Or come to Couchbase, one of the two. But yes. Dan's a fellow Ruby developer out in Colorado.
Yep. Great guy too.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, I see a red X.
Oh no. Let's go back up to the error.
Which it was somewhat planned, but did it fail at the same place?
It's trying to failed to load cluster config, error sending requests to the local Couchbase server running.
Oh, that's interesting.
Bucket already exists.
So if it's so okay, so if it's trying the local cluster, then that means that our config wasn't taken.
So do you have in your GitHub secrets or vars the use Capella config?
Let's go check because I have no idea.
Well, it's not going to allow you to see it. If it's a secret, then you'll have to repaste it.
I'm also
it'll show you the list of them.
When you look at this, is there a way to say this is running under dev environment? Like, I'm also curious about that.
Which dev environment? Sorry.
So, like these environments.
Oh yes, there are different environments, right? I don't know actually.
I'm always really bad at finding that. I'm like, it says it'll run on any because I have. this. No restrictions to which branch.
So that should be fine.
So I think it should pick this up, right?
And yeah, there's this thing, the CB shell config. You should know it. In any case, if you go back to your workflow file, we can edit it. The GitHub action.
Okay. So you want to go like back to the code?
Yes, back to the file, and you can edit. And if you can edit from here, what we're going to do is remove the building step for CB shell. So you can remove the Rust action. You can get rid of that line. We don't need that anymore.
What line
So
are you looking at?
27.
27.
So you can get rid of that.
Good.
You can replace nightly by 1.0.0. And you can get rid of the following line, which is line 30, I think.
The main branch?
Yeah. Because it doesn't need to build anything anymore. It should just build 1.0.0.
Oh, I got you.
And we should be fine. So we should have a much faster cycle.
Okay.
Now, why didn't work? It didn't connect to our using our variable, which is weird.
Well, you don't have Couchbase use Capella as a variable in your dev environment.
Correct.
If you go back, yes, let's create that. It's trying to fetch that, but it's not there. So just add a new environment variable called Couchbase underscore use underscore Capella, I think was what it was, and then set it to true.
Is it A? Am I spelling that right?
That looks right.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
True.
Yeah. And then maybe rerun the workflow. Actually, now run it a brand new run because you changed the workflow. We
Okay.
don't want to use the cache one. We want to run it. Yeah, there we go. And if you refresh the page, you should see it pop up. Yep. And maybe it'll be faster now that we're not running the Rust toolchain installation. Should be faster.
Definitely aired faster.
Error sending to localhost, but why is it still asking for localhost?
So it means the install didn't work. So it means the config probably didn't work.
Do we need to take a look at this DB setup and make sure this is?
We could, but the way it runs is that it starts by putting cbalf, which is what you see here, and
Couchbase default bucket is spring underscore. Do you see that?
yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. I don't understand what's going on.
Do you think it's not picking up the environment variables from the dev environment?
If it's not picking up Couchbase shell, CB shell config, then that's probably our problem. GitHub workflows, test connection, secret CB shell config.
I'm doing a little Googling on this.
Could you add me as a
Yeah.
maintainer on the project?
Absolutely.
It's LDOGUIN.
Sorry, YN?
LDOGU.
GUIN.
JU probably. Sorry. LDO.
J?
Oh, can we go back to the? Sorry, once you do that, it was potentially one issue.
This one.
Yes.
And if this doesn't work, we are going to continue this asynchronously. But if you go back to the workflow,
Yep. To
and
the
then
code,
the
or-
YAML file itself, yeah, the code.
There's probably a quicker way to do that.
Yes. Okay. So under jobs, wait, where are we? No, very top. Right. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Jobs. Yeah. Right. Job setup. you should define an environment variable that says dev. So environment and then environment dev.
I kept wondering about that piece, and I was like, I don't know.
According to my Googling, that may be the thing.
Let's try that again. I might be old, but like for the new devs, this is mind blowing that you can run these actions just this easily.
Oh,
It
do
is
you
pretty
remember doing Jenkins' job to do this kind of thing?
Yeah. And I lived in the land of SAP, so it was way worse than this.
What's happening here?
Yeah. I
Buttercat
used
dev
to.
requested a review to deploy to dev. You, no?
Wait, you see? Oh. I don't know why that matters.
Because there's two of us now. I don't know.
Maybe because we added that environment variable, I guess.
Just
Maybe.
approve and deploy.
Maybe I should turn off the approvals for that.
And then let's see what happens when it runs. Still be curious.
Oh.
Something else.
Well,
Error, no active propeller org. Check the docs and this is a good error. This is a great error.
This is a better error.
Yes. This is a better error.
So you can see that it removed the it obfuscated a part of the config that we don't want to show people. So that means it worked. The config has been used. Now it's not completed because it's asking for something, and that something would be.
Do I need the config file is not finished? We need to modify the config file. Registering organization in the config file. We shouldn't need an organization defined here. We're not using management APIs. We're just.
Yes, this is weird.
This is a good error. Okay, so my friends who are watching this, let's just take a step back. And if you are using, like Alex, different environments in your GitHub repo, and you want to access, this is a lesson for all of us, including all of us on this stream right now. You are using different environments and you want to access in that GitHub Actions, the secrets and variables stored in that environment. You need to actually define the environment explicitly in your GitHub Actions workflow file. So if your environment is called dev, you need to define it environment dev. If your environment is called cats and dogs, you need to define it as your environment cats and dogs. Like whatever you call it is what you need to define it under the jobs setup. That's a new learning for me today. I did not know that, and that's really
same
really
for me.
Cool. Now that we've done that, this is the recap. This is like narrator recap at the end of part 1 of a show. Now you've done that, we are left with the quandary, which is the config for a Couchbase shell is being registered, it is being seen, but we're getting an error around needing an organization defined, which makes sense if you are using management level activity on the Couchbase cluster from the shell. You need to have the organization ID defined. But we are not doing management level activity. We are only upserting, or we are only just checking the nodes. We're doing something very basic, not anything at a management level, which raises the question, why is it asking for this? And that, my friends, is the question we will be leaving with you today on this stream. Now, how can you find out more? You can join us on I was so smooth and now I'm not smooth. You can join us on the Couchbase Starter Kit GitHub org, GitHub/Couchbase Starter Kit, to follow along to the progress and unfolding of this mystery, because Laurent, Alex, and myself will continue in this journey offline, asynchronously, and we invite you to partake in that journey with us by going to github.com/Couchbase Starter Kit and seeing what the resolution to this is. So if you are curious, please go to that GitHub org and follow along in this journey of journeys, this epic adventure of this quest of all quests that is speaking to all of us prophetically in this beautiful day of Tuesday, October 15th. And with that, I want to thank Alex for joining us on this stream. Thank you very much. It has really been fun, actually, like a really good conversation. I think we had a good time. Laurent, it is always a pleasure to be partnered with you
Likewise.
Mon ami. Mon ami.
Merci. That was very enjoyable. Thanks, Ben.
And to all of you out on the interweb, continue in the fun, continue joining with us on all the things, and also check out CoderCat Dev streams and activities, and check out his work at FusionAuth. Go hang out at FusionAuth. They're good people, and you should use FusionAuth. You should use Couchbase. You should use all the good stuff. And until the next
Go
time,
to Web Summit. Is that it? Next time?
go to Web Summit and go to reInvent and come to RubyConf in Chicago in November as well. Now we're shouting everything out. Okay, friends, have a good day, a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Until the next time, we bid you adieu.
Goodbye.